morning. Welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the 11th day of March 2024. And welcome to our show this morning. Lots going on out there. I don't know if you guys have been watching, but I've been posting a lot on the financial collapse that we've got headed our way right now and what's happening with the banking system. I do think that we are going to see some little bit of change here, maybe a little bit more than a little bit of change, since today was the deadline for banks being compliant with the new rules and regulations. They will not be able to loan money, the small banks, unless they're compliant. And I guess I don't really know how this is going to shake out. I've got a couple of guesses on which way it's going to go, but we're just going to sit back and kind of watch a little bit, because you know what? I do believe that the good guys are in control. Certainly God is. And we're just going to have a new adventure in front of us. So, you know, it's all good. And I don't know if you noticed, but Mark McKay, he's a friend of mine and a wonderful musician, just got a released new single, and I'll be playing that probably tomorrow or later today. So at any rate, I want to introduce my first guest. It's Stanley Leszewski, and he is with American Substance Abuse, and we're going to be talking about fentanyl and at the border. Morning, Stan. How you doing?
Good morning. Doing great. Great to be American today.
It's good to be American every day, right?
Every day. Good day to be clean and sober as well. To be a productive member of society in America. You know? But,
there you go.
Yeah, you know, fentanyl's a big problem. You know, I work in the field. I do a lot of work with a lot of people. I try to help a lot of people get right with themselves. You know, addicts, alcoholics, and you know, I see mostly all downside. You know, I give all my time to put my hand out and helping the person that's down. There's a lot of stigma in the United States, in life in general, towards people that have substance abuse problems. Like, oh, look at this guy, he's a piece of crap, just walk away from him. You know, you know, I welcome the worst of the worst with open arms. You know, I myself personally, you know, battled my demons, and I'm very fortunate today to be alive today and to be doing what I'm doing, because not everybody makes it. I've come into recovery and started educating myself back in 2009, and I've been on a spiritual path for a very long time. I've lost so many friends, family, and loved ones. My girlfriend in 2017, she was found dead on the floor on Christmas morning, and you know, it just strengthened me more. You know, it hurt so much, and you know, I'm a miracle in itself. You know, I should have been dead 100 times ago. But it's like this. You know, there's people out there suffering, and there's people dying, and American citizens. And like we spoke before the show started, you know, I feel and believe, you can't convince me any different, this is an open, full-blown war on our country. You know, our country's under attack. It's these addictive substances, mainly fentanyl, that we're going to speak about. It's the precursors are made in China. They're sold to the cartels all around the world. You know, it's not just Mexico. And it's used as a cutting agent to intensify and increase the high of the substance, cocaine, heroin. It's put in pill form now, and it's sold as bootleg pain pills, Xanax, all different types of prescription drugs on a black market illegally. And you know, we could hunt down bin Laden and hunt down terrorists in the caves of nowhere all around the world and wipe them out. But there's no defense against these drugs that are coming into the country and hijacking the minds of American citizens and preventing them from becoming nothing but zombies and problems in society.
Well, I've got a guess here that it's our own government that's actually trafficking this stuff in. The criminal, you know, so it's not that it can't be stopped. It's that they don't want this to be stopped. Just like with the pipeline of kids coming in here. We had I'm going to take a guess here, but we had an explosion in Detroit this weekend. And I'm just going to throw this out there because I don't have any knowledge of this. But when I looked at this explosion, people were saying, oh, it's a vaping place. It's this, that, and the other thing. I looked at the pictures of this, and I'm going to tell you what I think it is. I actually would not be surprised if it was them blowing up something that had a lot of fentanyl in it, and or a way to distribute fentanyl through an aerosolized method, because we know they have that. And I think that there's more to this than what people are looking at, because I want people to think about it. if we have biolabs that our country is funded in Ukraine, and now, if you think that we don't have them in the United States, I mean, we've seen them in California with COVID and all that nonsense that they were doing over there, that we have stuff all over the United States. And when we see things like the explosion over in Detroit, I would be very slow to jump to conclusions on that, but to sit back and think there may be, this actually may be good guys that are taking care of business there, but I don't know that. But I'm taking a guess that might be the direction that truly was in.
The possibilities are there. I have an open mind, and every time I think I've seen it all, there's more to see. And if they could set up crystal meth labs anywhere and have a mobile on wheels like they had, mobile biolabs in Baghdad, I'm sure there's a lot more going on, in our country than we realize. I mean, the government can't even keep track who's coming in, and it's a free for all right now. It's anarchy.
Let's talk about your past and how you really, the stuff of your life, you started going down that a little bit. And I think that, whichever way you want to go is fine. But I think it's an interesting story. And one of my best friends had his son killed by fentanyl. And it was a drug dealer that knew what he was doing. They packed fentanyl in the Xanax bubble packaging. And he was 26 years old, beautiful, wonderful, godly young man. And he took a Xanax from somebody else, however, because he was nervous about going out at night, and he was dead before he hit the ground.
Right. It's pretty much the same. I could, we spoke about earlier. I could pretty much predict anybody's future if they're, still using, drugs. It doesn't get better; it only gets worse. It's just a matter of time. But the fentanyl epidemic it's something else. It's a substance created to kill. And that's what it's made for. It originally came out long ago in the 70s as an alternative for pain relief for people with cancer at the end stages of cancer. And for medicinal use, it would be fine, but it's not about that anymore. This country is poor management, call it what you will, but there's not enough being done. There's no defense against substance abuse in our country. And like I said, it's the fentanyl is made to kill, and it's hijacking the lives of American citizens and preventing them from becoming any kind of success in America, which would contribute to the growth and prosperity of our country. Nobody could convince me any further that it's definitely, without question, an attack on our national security, because what's happening is you have our alcohol problem. That's one thing. It's since the days of prohibition. It's part of culture. It's worldwide. That's a big issue as well. But you don't hear much about it because there's so many people who drink in the country. And how do you go to a barbecue and just eat meat and not have a beer? And people go to weddings. I can't go out and have a great time unless I have a drink or I smoke something or feel some kind of way. Okay, I can understand that. I'm not one to judge. I don't walk on water. But the truth is the truth. Facts are facts. The fentanyl comes into the country. It gets mixed in with the drugs and with the cartels. It comes across in all different ways. Carried over by mules. It comes in through containers. But like I said, we could hunt down terrorists in other countries and wipe them out and extinguish them. But we can't handle our own drug problem here. And
because our government's involved in it.
Right. What else can it be? You understand what I'm saying? But getting back to the matter of national security, it's hijacking. It's directed more towards the younger generations. They're experimenting. They legalized marijuana. That was like pouring gasoline on the fire, first of all. I mean, again, there's a lot of good things about, CBD and the medicinal use of certain drugs. But that isn't what's happening in America. This is coming in illegally, and it's being used as an attack on our country. So instead of the younger generations getting a proper education, what it's doing is it's turning them into addicts with substance abuse problems, and that is preventing them from becoming anything in life except having a drug problem. So our country's failing in that sense. And I don't see much on TV or anything. You see all these big busts at the borders about the drugs coming in, but they're not televised, and there's no awareness out there to show the end result of drug use. You can walk around through neighborhoods, you can walk around anywhere in this country, you're going to find somebody who's hooked on crack, heroin, has an alcohol problem. But like I said, so many people, it's stigmatized, and people they want to turn a blind eye. Not my son, not my brother. There's a lot of shame and disgrace when it comes down to, families. And like I said, it plays a big part in the stigma in society, where people, you can't keep turning a blind eye to a problem. And this problem is going deep, and it's going so deep where it's preventing American citizens from becoming productive members of society that would contribute to the growth and prosperity of our nation. Instead of more doctors, scientists, and so on, engineers, research, and developers being created, younger generations getting a proper education and guidance to becoming some type of success in life. These drugs are like a shot it's like a war, an attack on us without a shot even being fired. It's a silent, deadly killer. And
I'm going to wager
it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter who you are, how much money you have, what color your skin is. Drugs want you dead. Drugs will take everything from you and leave your family to clean up the mess and leave everyone in tears. You're here one day and gone the next. It's that simple. And that's what's happening to our country on that sense of it. You take in everything else that's going on, with some of these crazy democratic ideologies and their agenda. Now you have an uneducated society, and you have all this division amongst society because of failed policies, and the Democrats, Republicans too, and you throw it all on top of each other, and what do you have? You have a society set up for failure. You want to pick in, you want to throw in the economics and the cohesion because of all the immigrants coming in, the illegals, the invasion. America's being invaded.
Well, I think that you put up some really good points, is that there's so much bad news going on in the world, and people's emotions are highly activated all the time. And this is what I see as one of the biggest problems, is that people are using different things as a coping mechanism. And most of them are poor choices. There's always better choices that you can make. So how do you redirect people, and how do you help them when they're in the midst of substance abuse? Do you address those things that are causing people stress? Do you address better coping skills? How do you deal with this?
Well, first of all, you got to get to the beginning stages of it. Once the substances hijack the mind, it pretty much dictates how the individual is going to live and behave. It affects everything about the person, their character, mostly their behaviors. They start living in a compulsion. They have one drug, and all they keep thinking about is having the next one, just like an alcoholic or anything, any kind of addictive substances. So, at that point, the individual is not teachable. Then they only know, and the only compulsion they have is to keep using more and more and more. So,
do you see any commonalities with issues, though, when people are there even when people talk about why or what got them started on? Is it a loneliness thing? Is it a bad news all the time thing? What do you think drives the majority of the people to substance abuse?
You're asking. I mean, there's a lot of factors. There's a lot of psychological, biological, predispositions to look at. Everyone's different. Everybody gets hooked at a certain point in their life for certain different reasons, but it's all the same outcome. It all hijacks the mind and prevents a person. How do you fix something that you don't know that's broken? So when a person becomes addicted, they don't realize they're addicted. They're high. It's like being possessed by a demon. I can't find any other simplified way to explain it to you. And all your decisions and choices that you make, you think are the right ones, but in reality, this compulsion, this disease of addiction, it's taken over your life. It's affected and impacted your decision making, your rationality, and it's the only way I can say it is it's like being possessed by a demon, and you're going to lose in the end. And to come in and ask for help to a facility or someone you know would be the most vital and most important step anyone could ever take. It's not easy. Not everybody's going to make it. And, it takes a lot of work. And like I said, it goes back to how do you fix yourself if you don't believe or know what's wrong with you? And in the beginning, it's important for somebody to stop putting these substances in their body. And the first thing that happens is the individual detoxes physically. And from that point on, after the physical detox is over, then you go to work on the internal job, which is psychologically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. To a lot of people, you should do a lot of praying. But, my belief is logic. I use logic, the truth, to help people. Not everybody's going to make it. And it's sad, what's happening out there. I'm back down here in Florida, and, the people that we hear when I left a few months ago, a lot of them aren't here anymore because, they relapsed, they lost track, they lost their faith. And, it's sad, but it's a process. It takes a lot of work, and there's really not much out in society to help people. It's like people come in, they come off the street after losing their businesses, their marriages, their kids, no relationships left, they're homeless in the street. I've been there. I speak from experience. I talk the talk and I walk the walk. But people come in, and it's these facilities, the doctors, everything. It's part of America's economy now. It's like a revolving door. They come in off the streets, they ask for help, and right away, the doctors, they write them out prescriptions to, now you're getting a legal drug that's hijacking your mind, and it's another problem, methadone, Suboxone. So you're substituting an illegal drug for a synthetic opioid when you come to these doctors, and the problem continues. I'm about zero tolerance, complete abstinence from anything that's addictive, that's going to cause a problem, with a person's life. And there's so much more that could be done, and I'm on a spiritual path, and I feel in a world of substance abuse, without doubt, I want to be on the right hand of God and be one of His warriors to help save people. I carry a message everywhere I go, and it's just, I know I said it's sad a million times already, but it really is. I travel a lot. I see a lot of what's going on in this country. I go into the worst neighborhoods, and I get tears in my eyes. I hear so many stories, and it's everywhere. This the disease of addiction doesn't discriminate. Everywhere you go, you see it. And
what are some of the best success stories, or what have you seen that's been most helpful to people?
People being able to overcome addiction and become a productive member of society again.
What helps them get over that emotionally, though, I guess is the question I'm asking. Because there's a lot of us out here who really want to help in every aspect of life that we see. We're like, what does that look like to the average person if they were able to be helpful in this? I know I had one guy that worked for me, and I would call him every morning. He was an alcoholic, a recovering alcoholic, and I'd call him and we'd pray in the morning and such. Is it a friendship thing? Is it is it the distance? Is it the isolation people feel? How can we help?
How can you help? Don't be so judgmental. Instead of shunning someone away, put your hand out and ask them how you can help. Everyone's different, and everyone's perception of the word help is different, just like the word love. I love ice cream too. But like I said, everyone's at a different level where they are in life, and everyone needs help in a lot of different ways. And the best thing you could ever do is put your hand out and say, hey, how can I help you? Maybe it might be just a conversation for 5 minutes with someone, or buying somebody just a cup of coffee, or just holding the door open for them. It's when I help somebody in substance abuse, it's giving of myself to them and being of service to them. And, I have it's called sponsorship in recovery. And I've had the same sponsor for almost 13 years. And I remember when I met my sponsor, he said to me, he goes, if you want what I got, do what I do. And not once in 13 years has he ever told me what to do. And this man has, he's been in recovery for 38 years. And, I have a very, very large network. They consist of doctors and, lawyers and law enforcement and firemen and you name it. It's all people who battle substance abuse every day. And a lot of them struggle. I've met some of the richest, smartest people. They don't know how to stop drinking. They don't know how to stop using drugs. And here you have me. I could travel anywhere and do anything in the world like any other normal person. And I'm not threatened by picking up a drink or a drug today because I found a way out. I have knowledge, and there's a lot of work involved. And my journey and my path is to help people. I started American Substance Abuse Foundation, and I'm still structuring it. I'm one person by myself, and it's a learning experience for me, just like life. Everything between birth and death is a learning experience to me. And it's good. I learned how to take my past and turn around all my failures in my past to where it was a badge of honor and to be the guiding light for, all the other people that I find out there that are lost. Like, if I could do it, anybody could do it. All it takes is a little bit of compassion, kindness, and understanding, to help lift somebody's spirits up and to bring them on the path that I'm on. But like I said, a lot of people don't make it. It's a struggle, and it's really a really deep internal psychological and spiritual battle. I've met some people that done some terrible things because of drugs, and it's hard for them to live with themselves. And that's where the spiritual end comes in: Jesus, God, prayer, meditation. But there's so much happening out there, and there's really little that you see, on TV. There's no awareness. There's not much awareness programs in the schools. If we could get into the schools and develop some type of programs to prevent the younger minds from even trying any of these substances, it'll save society a lot of money. And on the economical end of it, taxpayer money. You have a lot of these NGOs that are created, I hate to say it, but they're mostly Democratic run and fueled, and they turn into these like revolving doors, these clinics where people come in with problems and they're really not addressing them. They're getting these grants from the government, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the money's just being wasted.
That's a really good point, because it's like the NGOs most of them just exist not to solve the problem they're peddling. Because if they solve the problem, the money stops. Right.
When I first came down to Florida about a year ago, I linked up with Jeffrey Bongiorno running for Congress. And, he opened my eyes up, and I started connecting the dots along with him. The man's a mastermind when it comes down to election integrity. And, I don't see anyone who could like fit the script and do what Jeff does. He's fully dedicated 24/7. I look at him like, what do you pop, vampire? You're up all night, you're on the computer. I'm like, your eyes are glowing out of your head like Jesus. But it's great what he does. And working and learning from him about what he does, just helped me connect the dots more, in a sense of in the world of politics. And so I started seeing how the Democrats' agenda is affecting society. And so you bring me in, with the substance abuse, and you add the information on top of what's going on out there in the world. And then, I'm with Jeff, and I'm trying to talk to constituents and people in society and bring awareness about, election integrity and about elections being hijacked. And people are so screwed up in their minds. They look at me like I have 6 eyes on my face. And like, what are you crazy? It's hard for them to comprehend and understand, because I see where they're at, where society is today. There's so much negative happening, and so much division, and so much brainwashing going on. I I see a lot of bad, out in society, a lot of negative, and there's not enough being done to implement change on a positive note. And I honestly believe, it has a lot to do, with the fentanyl coming into the country and all the other drugs. I have to just call it fentanyl now, because there's not heroin that's just heroin. There's not cocaine, it's just cocaine. There's not even putting fentanyl on marijuana. Next you're going to find out they're putting it on a water supply. And, it's an attack on our country. You can't convince me any different. It's an attack on our national security. And
for certain.
It's a threat. Definitely.
And there's so much bad news out there, and I got to tell you, the more crisis you're in, you've got one way to go or the other. Either you get really tough so that you can fight crisis and it doesn't affect you, or you do things to mask the problem. But as you said, you can never run away from a problem. One thing that I always taught my kids when they were growing up is that when things really suck out there, and right now it would have to improve just to suck out there. There's so many problems out there, and it seems like it's overwhelming to most people.
Well,
and they run to safety, but you know what? Hang on. But the thing that's really amazing is that when things are really bad, it's really easy to make a difference. It's like, because you don't have to do the big things. You can just do a small thing and you can change the world. It's like the butterfly's wing, a flip of a butterfly's wing across the globe can change things.
Ripple effect.
It's a ripple effect. And so as people, even though there's all of these negative forces that are on us and we see these really bad things happen, I think they've always been going on. We just have the awareness of it now. And we're more isolated because people spend way too much time on their phones and such, instead of go have coffee with somebody, go talk to them, go spend time with your pet, connect with real things, not the virtual things, but the real things, and realize that every single person you're talking to out there is feeling the same way you are. And so the way we help ourselves is what you did, is you turned it around and you've thrown your life into helping others. And the purpose that comes with that is amazing, to use those things that people would say as failures. I've been asked that a lot of times. They're like, have you had, any failures in your life? And I'm like, yeah, of course. If you are the only way you have no failures is if you don't get out of bed every day. Okay. That's the only way to have, the rest of us are kind of like trying to make it through life. We're doing the best we can with what we have, but we have to do it together. And the key is to find our happiness in serving others. And
yes, I agree. There's a spiritual war, Donna.
It sure is.
Spiritual war out there. If it's not in substance abuse, it's within a lot of parts of society and things going on. But yeah, there's definitely good and bad out there. And it kind of goes back like to the ancient times. We had these tribal doctors, shamans, and they make these concoctions, and people would drink the magic potion, and they have a spiritual experience. And it's kind of like that today, in a spiritual sense of it. People like to feel some kind of way and have that euphoric experience, when they're under the influence of some type of drug or anything, substances. But it's unfortunate, because it's like a possession. It's hijacking the minds and controlling people's lives and turning them into failures and into a problem in society.
I agree with you.
The substance abuse problem is really a big part of, the American economy. It's fueling the judiciary systems. The jails are overloaded. The detoxes are overloaded. The insurance companies are profiting from it. Bail bondsmen are making money. And, it's the funeral parlors.
So something really amazing there is that, to your point, is that we've got a problem with the substance abuse and such, but what's the core of the problem? It's like, when is that the result or is that the problem? I think it's a result. It's the result of people not coping in the breakdown of our society and the getting God out of society. Because when you have a real strong faith, you look at things going bad around you and realize that it's not your fault. It's definitely an attack. And so you've got a choice to pull into yourself, or you can go run right into the fire and try to go to the core of the problem and try to solve it.
It's a very multi-issue
It is.
subject. It has a lot to do with everything. First of all, these addictive substances hijack, not just the mind, but everything about one's life, their emotions, spirituality, and it goes back to you either play the victim card, or you got to take responsibility for your problem. And the root of the problem is to get rid of the problem, to keep these substances out of our country, to stop it. I mean, look what they did with COVID. They locked everybody down, and they didn't want anybody to come out of the house. They went above and beyond. They really put an effort out there to stop the spread. This is a silent killer. It's like cancer. People don't talk about it. There's stigma, and there's nothing being done really. These facilities that are out there, they're treating the problem. It's like if you have a cold, you have a fever, you have the flu, you go to the doctor, right? So, hey doc, I'm feeling sick, I have a fever. So he evaluates you, and he writes your prescription to treat the symptom. So these facilities and everything that's out in the public available for people to get help, they're treating the symptom. So what I'm aiming for is prevention, to eliminate the problem. This way we don't have to treat the symptom anymore. I can't count how many people who are just lost, and they're never gonna see the day where they could stop. And it's I gotta say it again, it's saddening, and it's
heartbreaking.
Yes. I've cried many times, and there's really not enough being done, on the governmental side. The government needs to go in and eradicate the root cause, where it's coming from, where it's originating from. And like I said, we could go anywhere in the world, our military, and wipe out terrorists. This is no different. I honestly look at drug dealers today as domestic terrorists. They're selling a substance that's hijacking the minds and like possessing people, their loved ones, and it's turning them into people with drug use problems that become homeless out in the street and committing crimes, and that becomes a burden on society, and it affects us economically. And the taxpayers picking up the tab for all of this, and all these NGOs, they're getting all these grants and they're profiting from it, and they're not using the money the right way.
I've seen that over and over again. I saw something a few years ago that I thought was really inspirational, and it was someone who put together for lack of a better word, a little compound. And I think it's a great idea. What they did is they gave people their own little place to live in, and that were struggling. And the people that were there, they would have dinners together and that sort of thing. But it was outside. It was like in a farmland, and they had a shop where people could go and make things. And after a while, you saw people they were really getting happy, because they found people that did love them exactly as they were, and realized that they're probably some of the most sensitive people in society, because things eat on them. That's what I saw. I saw that the sensitivity, and to the world, and why it did get to them, which is it's a sad thing, but it's also a good thing, because it means that they are aware enough to know that things really suck. But finding people that are like-minded and say, yeah, you're not crazy. It does suck out there, but what are we going to do about it? And they were, so I think it would be a great idea to even, have a path forward where, you bring people together and teach skills and such, so that they can see and envision a brighter future that they control. I hate to say it, but I'm not a big one for wanting to rely on the government, because they're going to screw up anything they touch. So
it's like a drug addict. Everything they touch turns to crap. Nothing ever lasts.
It really
does.
Right? They can't do a damn thing right. I mean, give them one thing, and they will kill your dream faster than a New York minute, right? And
it's kind of funny you use the term suck. I remember when I first came into recovery years ago, it was these old timers. They used to sit in these AA meetings, in the back of the meetings with these fat cigars in their mouth, these Italian guys. So they started seeing me coming around, and they came up to me like, if you plan on staying around, you should go out and buy a nice suit. And they kept asking me that. And, one day I walked up to them like, why do you keep asking me if I bought a nice suit? And they used to tell me, if you plan on sticking around doing the right things, you're going to go to a lot of funerals. But, those same guys, they used to say, like, if you don't pick up a drink or a drug, your life is going to get better. And I look at them like, what do you got, my head home in a crystal ball? You can predict my future? Tell me what the lottery numbers are going to be. But use the term suck. Here's the catch, I look up at the sky on really bad days in my life, and I say, that's all you got, big guy, keep them coming, because even though an individual stops, putting these substances in their body, life still sucks. But the kick is to have a defense against the first drink and drug, to be able to live life and get through the bad days without being reliant and using a cigarette, a drug, a drink, or anything as a crutch to get by in life. That's one of the most important things that somebody could have in recovery, is a defense against the first drink and drug. Because if you don't have the first one, you don't have to worry about the next one. And that pretty much goes to the same, bringing these awareness programs to the younger minds in society. Like, if you never try it, you never have to go through the hell that I had to go through, and all these millions of other people, and your mother never has to look at you, in the coffin. But, life is tough, and the disease of addiction is very powerful. But I got news for you. So is recovery. I've started writing my own book on substance abuse, and I have some people that have been working with me behind the scenes, and I'm trying to implement a program of virtual recovery group online through American Substance Abuse, where people could sign on. Recovery is great, it saves lives, but recovery doesn't pay the bills. And I want to help people, and I feel it's one of the biggest contributions that anyone could do in the world of politics is to open their mouth and speak about these problems and identify and see the seriousness of it. Because what good is society if it's not a teachable society? What good is society if, us Republicans, diehard Trump supporters, and, are out here speaking the truth, and society doesn't hear it because their minds are corrupt and they're not teachable. They're not capable of understanding anything. That I can't, so many people I speak to about what's going on in the world, and it's just too much for them to hear and understand, because underlying problems that are going on. And I'm out, like I said, I'm out here. That's all I do is, my phone rings from like 4 a.m. until it wakes me up in the middle of the night. It just never stops ringing. I'm sorry, but it's all people asking for help, needing information, and there's a problem in society, and I feel it's impacting America in a way where it's only going to get worse. It needs to be addressed, and I don't hear too many people talking about it. Like I said,
I heard that there's enough fentanyl in the United States to kill the American population 10 times over.
Probably a lot more than that, to be honest with you. It's all the things that come in that are unaccounted for. And I hate to say, if there's drugs here, what else is here? You have terrorists here, you have everybody here. We're screwed. There's a problem, and it's like I said to Jeff when I spoke to him a few times. It's going to get worse before it gets better, and it's somebody needs to step up. A lot of more people need to step up, and I feel government has become too big and powerful, and they sold out. It's not about the voice of reason anymore from we the people. It's about people getting into politics, and it's sold out. They're becoming rich and famous, holding their political positions, and they're forgetting about, the people, the constituents, across America. We the people, we say one thing, we want one thing, and these guys going out and doing another, doing what they want, not what we want. And, I have no, I remember one time coming back from someone's house in Edgewater. My friend called me up. He works He was a federal agent, and he was doing detail down by the courthouse in Jersey City. I'm originally from Jersey City, New Jersey. And they had these pro-Hamas supporters out there in front of it. And I said, let me pass by there and check it out. And it's just when Israel got hit. And so I pulled over in my truck, and I get out with my cell phone, and we're all out there chanting, you know, all this crazy stuff. And, you know, I pulled my cell phone out, and I looked around. I was the only one there to confront them. You know, I started screaming out, "You little terrorists, go back. You know, America doesn't need these problems. You know, you should be ashamed of yourself." They all surrounded me. But, you know, I speak of that and bring that up, you know, as in, you know, I'm just one voice, one person. And, you know, that's my hometown, Jersey City. And it was nobody else there. Nobody else cared. And it's like that about a lot of things in politics. You know, people sit home, they complain, they talk a lot of crap. You know, they create these chat groups, they go online, they post all this stuff. But who's out there doing the footwork and getting face to face with these politicians and telling them like it is? I mean, you know, I'm against the Democrat ideologies and, you know, their tactics, their political strategies, what they use, you know. But, you know, I got to give them props in a sense. You know, look what they did. They created Black Lives Matter, and they used Black Lives Matter as like they're mercenaries, and they send them out, you know, to do the dirty work. But you know, I feel in the world of politics, you know, the Republican side needs to build the defense and learn, you know, some of these political strategies that the Democrats use and start counteracting them. You know, I spoke with Jeff and a few other people, and, you know, they all agreed, you know, Republicans need to step up and build the defense, you know, a hardcore defense, you know, no excuses, you know, like get right in their face and tell them, look, you know, we want change, you know, and we need the uprising of the people, you know, to stand behind it. You know, it's just, you know, social media is great and everything, you know, but, you know, it takes footwork. It takes getting into somebody's face, you know, just like it takes to be successful in recovery, to help someone. You know, you can only do so much, you know, over a camera, online. You know, there's nothing like the, you know, being face to face with somebody. You know, it's called the therapeutic process. You know, and I have a lot of ideas. You know, I know we have a short amount of time here, and it's, you know, it's hard.
Well,
for
what
me
are
to get
some of your
everything
ideas?
out.
What are your ideas?
You know, just like the Democrats, you know, they have NGOs. You know, Republicans need to learn how to utilize, you know, some of the non-government organizations as well, and, you know, have more people and like armies of the people of society, you know, like to come out and voice it, televise it, you know, put it on social media, you know, instead of just individual politicians getting up and, you know, having their podcast and having all 100 other politicians and lobbyists coming in. You know, what about regular people out in the street? How come nobody hears their voices? You know, everybody, you know, comes into politics and like they become these political celebrities and they're making millions of dollars. And, you know, don't forget where you come from and why you're there. You know, it's insanity. You know, it's no different. Politics it's just like a drink or a drug. You know, people's minds get hijacked, and, you know, politics is empowering, and, you know, maybe politics needs a 12-step program.
I kind of like that idea right there.
You know, you got cocaine in the White House. You know, who was it? Joe doing blow. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, let's drug test the politicians biweekly, every 2 weeks.
Oh, I like that idea.
Hit them all with a drug test, you know, on a blind without them knowing. You know, with cameras on them. You know,
I like that idea.
You
know what they do, and then
where your mind is, where you're at in life. You know, let's know the truth.
They write laws to protect themselves too. Do you know that the only thing that's safe from surveillance or seizure is people's video records?
Right.
And that happened because
you're not allowed to have sound on them either.
Well, you know what it was? It was one of the politicians got I'm not a politician because I've never been hired, right? So, but it was like he got caught with somebody leaked his video logs.
With his hand in the cookie jar.
Yeah, and so he went right back and made a law that you couldn't leak video records because he got outed for the porn he'd been watching and such. Right. So it's like I don't think that's a bad idea. That accountability is a big deal. But, you know, definitely. Right now, if a government is rogue, which ours clearly is, and is at war, it's not just from the outside. Our government is at war with we the people. we can't sit and wait for them to fix it because they've got no reason to fix it. This is the thing.
Hold up there, Donna. But
Yeah.
we the people rise up and we go out like they do in the other countries, go out in the street and throw rocks. We're gonna get locked up and thrown in with the J6s. Put me in with the J6s.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying to you? We're just people who want change, and if we go and voice our concerns and scream out loud in the streets, now we're terrorists. We're MAGA. Watch out for the MAGA people. I got your MAGA right here. Come see me. I'm MAGA. I'm ultra MAGA.
I'm ultra MAGA too. That's good. So but it goes.
There's the insanity. Where's the freedom of speech and assembly and I say what I mean and I mean what I say. And I stand by it. I'm American all the way. And who you to tell me I can't say what I want to say and do what I want to do in this country?
That's exactly the attitude that we all have to have.
These Democrats need to take a seat and chill out. They're in for a rude awakening. I'm on a mission. I want to build an army up of people out here, who want to stand up for our constitutional rights in this country. That's what it's all about. You look at Nancy Pelosi. It's Joe Biden. How did he get in office? It's incredible. I shake my head so many times. I'm looking at him like, what a clown show. I know people in recovery are struggling. They could do a lot better than Joe Biden.
Yeah, that's serious right there, right? So I think it's really awesome, though. The wonderful thing is that you've taken all your pain and things that have happened in the past, and that's the key to life right there from all of us. I mean, every single one of us has been hurt, and we've made bad choices, and we're not perfect. We're human beings. And human beings are highly, highly flawed, influenced easily, generally. And emotions will drive us, like horses, they'll drive us to do really bad things. So we have to, first of all, learn how to cope on an emotional level. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, honestly, is to go to God and ask him to carry us through those hard times in life, no matter what it is. And then when you see something wrong, you can't sit and stew on it. You've got to go into action. You've got to do something. That's why we feel bad. I think God gives us those times when we feel bad or that we're stressed in order to direct us to get off our behinds and do something when things suck, and get in the game. Right. And that it's a beautiful thing what you're doing to reach out and to help people who have, problems with substance abuse. And I just see it as, like you said, they're lost. They need us. They need people to reach out to them. We need to reach out to each other because our entire nation right now is hurting and lost. And people are not coping well.
That's what I do from the time I wake up till the time I go to sleep. My phone never stops ringing. When I give my phone number out, I give my number to them for a reason. I tell them, no matter what, I'm going to answer my phone for you. It doesn't matter what time it is. And if I can't speak at the moment, I'll text you back and get back to you. But that's what it is. It's putting out a hand to help somebody up and bring them in. I bring them into a network of people that I have, and I introduce them to my network, and they introduce them to their network, and so on. It's a recovery network, and it's spiritually based. Jesus, God, Buddha. It's recovery doesn't discriminate, just like the disease of addiction doesn't discriminate. Recovery welcomes all. You want to learn how to stop drinking and using drugs, call Stand Up. I'll put you on the path. You want what I got, I'll show you what I do. You do what I do, and maybe chances are you might be successful too to live a life free of substance abuse.
Do you want to give your phone number out?
Sure, no problem. 201-204-8384. That's my direct cell number. And you can find me on Facebook, Stanley R Leszewski, American Substance Abuse, on Twitter. I don't have my website up. I'm still working on it, working out the bugs and everything. But Donna, that's what I do every day. And other than that, I do a lot of work with Jeff. I enjoy working with Jeff. I learn a lot from him. He's a great guy. Yeah, he's a great guy. Great guy.
Give your phone number out one more time so people can hear it.
American Substance Abuse, 201-204-8384. Feel free to call me anytime. And if you or a loved one, a friend, or anyone you know is out there lost and has a problem, just give me a call. I'll take the time out to speak to you and help you out as much as I can.
compassionate care. I really appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you so much for everything you do. I mean, it's extraordinary how many people you help, and the fact that you've literally put your entire life into serving others and helping in this very hurting world. And I like talking to you. I love what you have to say, and I think it'd be really great to hear. Thank you. I'd really like to hear your entire story, because I think those stories that we tell about our lives really help people connect to the humanity in all of us. So, realizing that this is what happens in a digital world, is that quite often we lose our humanity and the connection to each other. And that's what we really want more than anything, is to belong, to know that we matter, and have purpose.
Yes, that without question, I'm 100% agree with you. And most importantly, people find Jesus and find God, a higher power of some kind. Because I use logic to live a life without substances, and I use God and prayer for everything else. I honestly know. On top of that, I got diagnosed with 3rd stage colon cancer a year ago, and before I came back down to Florida here, I got tested twice, and it came up, there was no remission, gone, no trace of it. And, it's, to me, it's, can I question it? Can I prove what happened? A year ago, they wanted me to go for chemotherapy, radiation treatment. And I said, nah, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to put myself through that. And, I just,
so did it just go away?
Holistic approach. When I was, battling my demons, I went up to 485 pounds. I walked with a cane for almost 3 years. They counted me out. My time was limited. And, I took my life back. Like I said, I put a lot of work in. I fought for my life. I took my life back. And, I'm not 485 pounds anymore, but I'm in the gym every day, 2-3 hours a day. And, I live a healthy lifestyle, a complete turnaround. One thing recovery taught Stan, that Stan had to change, and that's everything about myself and my environment. And, I know for a fact there's something, after this life. And I know for a fact, I never got any chemotherapy or radiation, and, I'm clear of any colon cancer today. And, I'm grateful for that. And I look up in the sky and I'm like, yeah, big man's up there.
What did you do?
I look at it like this, like, the day comes where I got to say goodbye to my worldly body, and I'm up there before him. All I could do is say, hey, how'd I do? Did I help enough people? Do I get a pass?
I love it. What did you do? What did you do holistically for the colon cancer?
Just eat healthy, a lot of herbs.
There you go.
Yeah, a lot of water, a lot of fasting, and a lot of praying.
That's extraordinary.
A lot of praying, a lot of looking at the sun and getting sunlight too.
Well, we'll have to come back on. We'll have to come back on again, and I want to hear that story, because I think that's extraordinary. It sounds like we might have some commonalities here we could talk about, and it's amazing how anything that seems to be scary doesn't need to be, because when we have God with us, we can walk right through the darkness of anything. And we don't have to be afraid of it. We don't have to be upset about the things that are going on wrong around us. That was a guarantee that was a guarantee that we were going to face that when we, in this life, we're going to face those difficult things. And you don't have to, people out there, you don't have to be afraid, because there are ways that God can change you and change any situation out there. You just got to trust him. But trusting him means let go of all your anxiety and let him take over the path. And then all of a sudden, all those things that are scary, excuse me, all those things that go wrong in life, maybe the abuse that you've had, maybe the things that people call negative, you can turn those around, and they can be one of the greatest strengths of your life. Not to feel sorry for yourself, but use it. It's a gift.
Yes, it is a gift. And like I said, I'm very grateful and fortunate, like I say sometimes to people that I sponsor in recovery, a miracle happened today. I woke up to another day of life. And on top of that, I woke up without a compulsion or desire to have a drink or a drug. And 13 years without a cigarette, it's those things, that matter. I can't put a price on today because I never believed, I could have a life, free of addiction, substance abuse. And, I found a way out. I have the knowledge, and, more than anything, I try to utilize my knowledge by putting my hand out and helping someone else, who's in that dark place. And if that's not a spiritual process right there, once you put your hand out and you take somebody's problems on as your own and you help them get through it and help them get to the day where, their life starts to change, it restores a sense of hope and faith inside me that, people have a chance out there. I carry a message of strength and hope and faith, and I try to pass it on to someone else and do for them what someone has given me. I give freely. I don't charge to help people. I get paid for it. I get paid for it in other ways. Like I said, when my time's up for me, I'm in front of the guy up in the sky. I'm like, hey, how'd I do?
That's wonderful.
That's pretty much it.
That's wonderful. Well, what a great message of hope and moving forward. It's like when it seems the darkest, the light's right there. We just have to stay in the presence of God himself, and everything changes. And we don't have to be afraid. We don't have to be upset about it.
Not at all.
And you can get it. And I'll just say it, you can even get a cancer diagnosis and never have it affect you. And because you understand that it's just something else that God's probably going to teach you about. And, like everything else, do I talk about my health history? No, I haven't. But it's going to be okay. Those things that happen to us in life teach us to be strong, and you can run right into them, realizing that it's just another problem for today. Take the problems of the day. We have enough problems in one day without thinking about, the whole world or moving forward. Just relax and take things that come to you. Don't take on these big problems. They're always been there. They're always going to be there until Jesus comes back. And realize that if a difficulty comes and you're feeling a little bit of stress there, guess what? It's just
this too shall pass.
But it's making you stronger. If you have difficult people in your life, you're learning how to deal with difficult people. The next day, you're going to be better at it. Every day and every problem, you're getting stronger, and you're learning to deal with more problems. You're growing up, and we all are growing up every single day. And it's something to be really thankful for, not to run away from or be afraid of, and realize that nobody's going to judge you. God's not going to judge you. And people that truly know how to love, they're not going to judge you. They're going to say, here, come on, grab my hand. Let's stand you back up on your feet. You can do this. We can do this together. You're not alone, and it's going to be okay.
I kind of look at it like this. I know people judge. There's a lot of judgmental people out there, but I'm not going to stop being who I am. I stand my ground, and no matter what life throws at me, I don't break. Sometimes, like I say, I look up and I say, God, that's all you got? That's the worst day? Come on, keep it coming.
Great attitude.
I stand my ground. I stand firm, and I welcome people to judge me. Come on, come judge me. Because when you judge someone, you're pretty much judging yourself. Look in the mirror before you judge.
I always think it's funny. It's like, go ahead and judge me all you want, because then it's not landing on somebody else who actually cares, because I don't give a crap.
I try not to judge anyone. I don't walk on water myself, but But I really strive, and I do my best to be a good, kind person, because the world needs more good people in it. And, I keep an open mind, and I keep a willingness to always keep my hand out and help somebody if I can.
True enough. Well, let's have you back on again, and I want to hear your full story. That would be awesome.
Thank you. I'd be honored. Thank you so
all
much.
the positive stuff that's come out of struggle, because clearly there's a lot of good that came out of struggle for you, which is a wonderful thing to carry on in the day. So thank you so much for coming on. Everybody look up
Donna.
Stanley and America's Substance Abuse. And if you know somebody, he's a great person to help you. So reach out.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great day. And you know what? I'll be back for the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. Good morning. Welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the 11th day of March 2024. And I'm going to move right here into bringing on my next guest, Ralph, the IT guy. Hey, Ralph, how you doing?
Doing good. How about you?
Doing good. So I thought we would talk about things in the world of EMP protection of our homes. And I posted some. Actually, Ralph passed this information on to me because he actually knows what he's talking about, and a little bit more expertise there. I don't do too bad, but certainly Ralph knows more than the average person. So I'm going to bring something on here, but let's start out also with the alerts that we found for cell phones. We had a cell phone alert that came out this week, and that iPhones have started something called journaling suggestions. So I went down and I decided to check this thing out and see if it was true. So if you have an iPhone, this is an important. After the latest update, there was a new feature downloaded called journaling, and it's under settings, privacy and security, and then scroll all the way to the bottom. There's a new feature called journaling suggestions. You want to talk about that for just a minute?
Oh, well, to be honest, that one I'm not real familiar with. I'm not much of an Apple person myself, so I can't speak to that a whole lot.
Well, I tell you what, I went down through this and I decided to go and see. So I went to settings, and there's privacy and security. So I went ahead and I published this, and you scroll down and it's journaling suggestions, and click. Guess what? The phone had me automatically turned on, which allows others to detect you are nearby to help prioritize their suggestions. This is data mining, and in a big way. And you know what? This is one of those things that when I was actively campaigning, there were people out there that no matter where you are, they're scooping up cell phone numbers and trying to discover who is where, and they're putting this together. You're under surveillance all the time. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you are. You are always being watched and listened to, and they keep finding little ways like this. So we just kind of make it harder for them. So then I went and I toggled this off, and it was just like a big screw you to them, because I was like, nope, not going to do that.
Yeah,
and then
one thing I think a lot of people don't understand too is how insecure text messages are. That's one thing that I get on people for quite a bit, is for, just text me the password for something. Don't ever text a password for something. Text messages, the security behind cell phone protocols has increased slightly over the years, but text messages were not designed as part of the cell phone protocol really as a consumer-facing thing. They were originally designed as basically a maintenance and testing facility. And so they were implemented with zero security. And so in a lot of cases, when you send a text message, you're literally broadcasting that text message to both the general area, unencrypted in a lot of cases, to both the general area surrounding you and the general area surrounding the recipient by radio. And even though it is illegal to intercept those kinds of things, it is very easy to do in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Yeah, with that said, I've had people ask me to text my driver's license or text that you're literally giving anything you have over. And it doesn't take somebody who's a great hacker to be able to pick that information up.
Yep. Email is a lot of times the same way too. Because even if you are, let's say you're using an email client and you're talking to an email server over a secured protocol like TLS. Well, that's all well and good, but the general interchange format between servers on the internet defaults basically to unencrypted. And if you're running a server, you can have your server optionally upgrade that connection to an encrypted connection if the other server supports it. But by default, email is unencrypted. And I mean, there are some methods of getting around that. Proton mail is one that comes up a lot. They if you're emailing from one Proton Mail user directly to another Proton Mail user, you're still having to trust Proton Mail that they're keeping that private. However, it's probably a little more likely that that's going to be good than if you're emailing a general person out on the internet. But even better, you can take that into your own hands and implement something like PGP or GPG encryption on your emails, where you can both sign and encrypt emails from your computer all the way in transit until they get to a destination. And that's really a pretty decent way of doing secured text communications over the internet, is through systems like that, where the encryption is end to end, where it's done on the endpoints. And I mean that in a sense that you can audit that yourself. A lot of the things that say they're end-to-end encrypted, yeah, they're end-to-end encrypted, but they're also end-to-end encrypted to some kind of a
service.
Yeah, some kind of a logging system for interception at a later date.
Yeah, I've got some questions about Signal. People think Signal is really super secure, and I don't have that kind of faith. I just don't.
Signal is actually one of the ones that I tend to trust a little more than some of the others.
But nothing is bomb-proof.
Nothing is bomb-proof, no. Signal, the main guy behind Signal is a very well-regarded security researcher, so I tend to, and a lot of that is open source and auditable. There are components of it that you use that are not auditable in general use, but you don't have to use those components if you don't want to. So that's one that I tend to think is probably a little safer. Another one is Matrix. Matrix is another communication protocol that seems to be pretty good, but like you said, nothing is perfectly secure. There is no perfect security in anything electronic and anything physical.
Which brings us back to our Dominion voting machines, which they cheated their tails off with on the electronic voting. Yeah, I hope they come after me because this was foreign interference in our election, and we have proven that they were cheating on that. They were flipping votes. They were doing all sorts of things, and you can look at it. I mean, I had Todd Buffington on here, and you could actually see when they are batching votes into the machine. They're batching it into the machines. The machines are taking it and doing fractional voting. I mean, there's all kinds of things happening there, and they were reaching out to the internet.
Yeah, there's no defensible reason why a vote count should be stored as a floating point number. That is a ridiculous thing. That should only ever be a positive integer, not even a negative integer. I mean,
and why have the Republicans not stepped up and made this an issue and said, this is a matter of national security. We get rid of the machines, and nobody is absolutely going after with bare teeth. I mean, this absolutely needs to happen. And nobody that's seated in the seats are saying, I'm not tolerating this. We're done.
Yeah, and aside from that, the fact that they're tracking it as a decimal value means that they're almost certainly using a floating point rather than a fixed point value. If they were using a fixed point value, that would even be a sillier way to store that. But assuming it's a floating point value, because that's typically what you use for a
fractional voting.
For tracking any fractional number on a computer, it's typically tracked as a floating point value. Once you get to a certain number in a floating point value, it starts to actually lose precision on the low end. So like you can add 1 to a large, if you take a large floating point number, add the number 1 to it, you may not actually get a number that is the original number plus 1, because the way that floating point values work is basically like a short number of digits and then the number of positions left or right to shift the decimal point, more or less. This happens in binary, but that's basically how it's tracked. So like for a 32-bit floating point value, if I remember right, you get around 7 decimal digits worth of of precision out of that before you start losing precision at the low end. And so, I mean, if you're using a 32-bit value, that runs out of precision for counting individual votes very, very quickly. If you're using a 64-bit value, the same thing happens. It's just at a larger number. But just the fact that they're tracking that way is it's mind-bogglingly silly.
Well, yeah, but look at how poorly managed they're doing everything, because they're trying to use the last 4 digits of a social security number, and this is something Jeff has been talking about a lot, as an ID, which gives us how many actual original 4 digits? That's 10,000, correct?
Yep.
And so what you're looking at is how you're going to have repeats. So how could that possibly be an identifier? It's just another way to obfuscate information and turn something into a absolutely meaningless action by our government, which is what we come to know and love.
Social security numbers aren't supposed to be used as identifiers.
Correct.
They, at least not unique ones. They get recycled. They get recycled with a great amount of frequency at this point. And so,
but think about how absurd it is to have an identifier that you only have 10,000 original numbers with what is it, 333 million people. It's like, how could you even think that this was going to have any effectiveness? Well, it doesn't, and they don't care, because this is how they help steal the vote back for themselves to keep them in power. I wanted to go to something else here a minute. Charlotte was on here talking, and I didn't pull it. I didn't talk about it when Stan was on. But anyhow, I want to give her airtime a minute. No, they give more tax money to programs like Genesis drug clinics and leave syringes tossed on the ground for a child to pick up, and prostitution going rampant. They're lazy, self-centered, civilly ignorant sheeples and lazy sold public functionaries, commie tyrants, executive branch of clowns. Yes, they are. We need to shut the government down and take it over, fire them, says Charlotte. Schools, it's a joke. The clown Whitmer really helping the vets. More suicides, pharma pills, hand out than ever to vets. Depression, even in schools, depression, kids depressed. Why? Humanity is being attacked. Absolutely. They might design a pill to shut us up one day if they can't get full control of the media. Soros just bought the market power to lizard people. Should they not do something about this commie? I would think so. Government in many states are killing them right now. So lots of frustration. And Jesus went back for that last sheep. There you go. That's a nice way to end that, is that as much frustration as we have out there, Jesus still went back for individuals. So good job with that one. So let's go back to moving on to the banking. Have you been watching this banking stuff going on?
Not that one.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So this is kind of interesting to watch the direction. Today is the day that they were supposed to be compliant, and if they weren't, they will cease making new loans, according to the Federal Reserve. But with that said, the Federal Reserve has never been part of the United States of America, and I think they're less in power now than they were when President Donald J. Trump, the rightful president of the United States, took office. Banks have been placed on alert beginning Monday, March 11. So I feel we are close. We might get notified, but exchanging worlds start a few days after that. That's what Jack Straw thinks. Banks will be prohibited from loaning the fiat U.S. dollar, according to an announcement from the Federal Reserve Board. That effectively means the banks will commence closure on that day. So we'll have to see what exactly we're going to be facing today. Know the difference between those who stay to feed the soil and those who come to grab the fruit. Sounds like there I posted, this is my Telegram channel. I did post the what the Federal Reserve Board announced, and executive order, kind of fun. Let me go past Mark. Mark's a friend of mine, and he came out with a new single this week. So I'm just going to go through my Telegram channel. Kind of excited and happy for him. We'll play his thing tomorrow. And let's look at the fentanyl program. Hang on a minute and let me go ahead and turn this one off a minute and move to another screen here. Fentanyl program and the, I'm sorry, I jumped past it here. Let's talk about the EMP protection for homes.
Yes. Yeah, I actually found a really good video on that. That is okay. So we should back up because it's possible.
I kind of jumped around a lot there.
Yeah, everybody may not know exactly what an EMP is. You know, you hear about an EMP all the time, but you know, what is an EMP? And the other thing about that is how does that correspond with like coronal mass ejections from the sun? And both of these things are things that are good to consider and good to try and protect against, because they're
just
both
on a regular day, not just you
yeah,
know, you should think about it.
They're both very good to protect against, and they're both very similar, and that's why it's a good idea to think of both of them as being pretty much the same thing. So an EMP, the idea behind that kind of comes from a bunch of research. I think it was mostly done back in the 50s, where they figured out that if they exploded a nuclear bomb high up in the atmosphere, what it would do is the radioactive particles and everything from that, all the fallout, would stay high up in the atmosphere long enough that most of it would tend to degrade before it came down, and as such, it wouldn't really cause a lot of radioactive problems from the explosion itself. But whenever you have a nuclear explosion like that, it creates what's called an electromagnetic pulse. And so if you go back to, physics class, where you've got, a coil of wire, and you wave a magnet over the coil of wire and it generates electricity, and you can see it bouncing a voltmeter up and down, right? Electricity can be generated by moving a magnet over a conductor. Well, the idea behind an electromagnetic pulse is basically the way that the nuclear explosion happens. It causes a huge pulse of both a magnetic field change as well as a change in the electrical field, electromagnetic. And so what that does is it's so massive that for pretty much everything that is within a certain radius of wherever one of these things is exploded, it turns every conductor on the ground into a generator because of the magnetic field. It cuts across the magnetic field lines, cut across the conductors, generating electricity in everything that's a conductor, basically. Okay, so that's what an EMP is. That's what causes it, is basically from a nuclear explosion. That is probably not, that's not something you're going to have to worry about on a daily basis. That's kind of an extreme situation to encounter an EMP. On the other hand, a coronal mass ejection, those actually happen with a fair degree of regularity. And that is where the sun, you see sunspots, you see the loops in the corona of the sun if you're looking through like a solar telescope, that sort of thing. What a coronal mass ejection is basically where there's I think usually it's caused by the varying magnetic fields on the sun as it kind of rotates and the surface churns around and stuff. But what happens is it throws a bunch of ionized particles from the corona of the sun out into space. These happen all the time. But the thing is that they don't usually hit the Earth. They usually, there's an awful lot of space around the sun. So if it's just randomly shooting out particles, well, your likelihood of getting in the middle of that is pretty small. But when those particles hit the Earth, they can cause a very similar effect to an EMP, where it more or less turns everything that conducts electricity into a generator. The problem that you have with that, with both of those things, and this is why you have to think of them as fairly similar. Coronal mass ejections actually happen quite a bit, and we're kind of on a cycle to encounter a bunch more of them soon. The problem is that can cause huge power spikes in power lines, in computers, in anything that has wires, basically, and that can fry stuff. So there are, in that video that I found, it talks about how to protect your house from an EMP. And he's got a couple of suggestions for that. One is to install a whole house surge protector, which is generally a great idea anyway. I mean, just even for lightning protection, surge protectors don't completely solve the problem of lightning, but they, if it's a ways away, it can certainly help. And the other thing that he suggested is adding ferrite cores to the incoming power wires into your main breaker panel. And he had some that he was selling that he was talking about. You need to use these special modified ones so they don't saturate and all that kind of stuff. And then he didn't tell how to modify them, which I was a little annoyed at because I want to know how to modify these things. But it's a good idea, actually, to do that. So the way that a ferrite core works is basically to resist any change in power level. So, you look at little, I don't know, transformer power cord things, especially the older ones. You'll notice kind of in the middle of the cord, there's a little hard, round, cylindrical thing. Not all power cords have them. That's called a ferrite core, and it's basically just like a chunk of magnetizable metal. Goes around the cord, keeps power surges and stuff from going down the cord and going to devices. Well, you can just buy ferrite cores and put them onto pretty much any cord in your house that you have. They cost almost nothing because they're basically just powdered iron. And it's really not a bad idea. It's something that I hadn't really thought about, of doing that on the endpoint devices. But then also, getting a surge protector installed in your house, great advice. Putting ferrite cores on your incoming power leads could be really good if you can figure out how to do it and not have them saturate like he was talking about. But yeah, all of that's good stuff. And like I always say, have a backup for anything electronic. We have it.
There's no guarantees, and
yep.
I think that's the one thing. We had Stanley on this morning talking about the people's ability to cope with things. There's no guarantees, so you can make the best plans you can, do your best, and if you have to punt at some point in time, then punt. But if you know that there's a threat out there, but then you can plan ahead a little bit and see if you can avoid some of the damage.
Yep. I've got some questions too that were asked to me this week about grounding too, and some of the questions were about some of these various grounded devices that you can buy, and how effective are they for health purposes and stuff. I don't put a lot of stock into most of those because most of them really you need to have the core of the thing was, do they help with health? And despite how much I use radio for communications, and Wi-Fi and ham radio and all that kind of stuff, and even though there's an awful lot of studies saying contrary, I do tend to think that the amount of RF that we are exposed to on a daily basis is not good for us. And so for health purposes, I don't put a lot of stock in grounding, but I do put a lot of stock in what can you do to cut down on the amount of RF, radio frequency energy that you're absorbing. And to that effect, a lot of those same things actually help with EMPs and EMP protection. Anything that is able to block or stop radio waves is also going to help stop the effects of an EMP generally. So, and there are a lot of ways to do that. I mean, if you have, ultimately, it would be great to live in a Faraday cage, and that's going to catch all of the radio and shunt it right to ground, keeps it away from you, right?
Right.
Well, that's also going to make it so that your cell phone doesn't work, that your Wi-Fi doesn't work. All of these things that we take for granted as, normal parts of life anymore. There's an awful lot of that just doesn't work in a proper Faraday cage. And so you have to kind of balance things out a little bit. But
Michigan Homesteader just shared this and says, Ralph, is this a good one? It's empshield.com. I just pulled it up so that everybody could take a look at it. And I have no idea what's in this, but this is what we do. It's real news for real people by real people at the kitchen table. So they've got all sorts of things on here. And I don't know. We haven't looked into it, but we can.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that. It looks like the way they're doing that is primarily with a
whole house.
Yeah, whole house surge protector. That's what that looks like there. That's pretty much how they mount, is they'll mount next to the main breaker panel.
Okay. And also my father-in-law has an electrical company and I'm trying to get them educated. I think they could sell a lot of them. Well, if people need a source, you always want a good source. So we'll look into it. Tom Always Learning says Isaiah 49:10 says not to fear the sun, right? Get out there and get your D's today. If you're in Michigan, it looks like we've got some sun here today. So today's a good day to get some D's. And it's always wise to protect ourselves though. Lev says the sun is healing. That's the reason they are trying to block it. Charlotte, do you think these solar flares will be more powerful cause of this clown show chemtrailing in the sky? They have 20% of the sun blocked now.
Actually, we're coming up on a solar flare cycle maximum here, I think, in the next 5 years or so. If I remember right, it's about a 50-year cycle, something like that. And we're coming up on the maximum for that. So 50, no, I'm sorry. That's a different cycle. It's not the solar flare cycle, but the coronal mass ejection cycle. They do tend to correspond, but the coronal mass ejection cycle is, I think, closer to about 100-year cycle. And that's the one that we're coming up on. We're also coming up on a sunspot cycle here pretty well. That's an 11-year cycle that affects radio. But yeah, if you want to look at what happens with coronal mass ejections, we actually got to see that. I think it was a little over 100 years ago now when a massive one hit the Earth and hit the just kind of still forming the telegraph system. The early, I think it was fairly mature by the time that that happened. I don't remember the exact date, but there was a massive coronal mass ejection that hit the Earth, and that is actually when they figured out that it corresponds with sunspots, because there was a solar astronomer that was doing a bunch of it was really, really early in solar astronomy. And he had a solar telescope and was tracing the sunspots at the same time that, I think he was actually literally tracing the sunspots on a big piece of paper. They figured out that this happened basically at the same time as this major incident in the telegraph system, where they were getting like sparks shooting out of the telegraph machines and that sort of thing. And in some cases, they disconnected the power on the telegraphs because there was so much power coming through from the CME, and the telegraphs continued to work even without power because there was so much just being picked up on the lines. And that let me see if I can find the date on that, because it's a really interesting story. And if you think about that being, telegraphs being basically just like buzzers and switches, and it was able to do that much stuff to mess with that, well, it can certainly mess with the much more advanced, finicky, and sensitive electronics that we have nowadays a lot easier.
Victorious 1013 said, Rob Workman, certified building biologist from Missouri, also recommends EMF GAL, basically the same product as the other company you mentioned. So
looking at EMP Shield.
So there's others out there too.
Yeah, looking at that EMP Shield, it says their devices have been tested at Intertech to UL 1449 standards. Intertech tends to have a little bit lower standards testing than UL. You might want to see if you can find a device that is up to UL 1449 standards. That's generally a good standard to look for, not necessarily Intertech, although if you can get one that's tested by both, great. But yeah, I might look for one that was actually tested by UL, and have a qualified electrician install it. That you don't want something either where if you get a lightning strike and it sends a surge down the line and it fries something or it fries this device. You don't want something where you're going to have a problem because it was improperly installed. Get a qualified electrician to install it, because you also don't want to have, as much as insurance rules our lives anymore, which I have a major problem with. They don't look too kindly on, especially things dealing with massive amounts of power like this being installed by amateurs.
There you go. So,
but yeah, so pretty much anything though that you can do to reduce your RF exposure is probably also going to help with an EMP. And something too that a lot of people don't consider is that with an EMP or a CME, coronal mass ejection, there's a major magnetic component to it as well. You've got the electrical side, which is great. That's going to come down the power lines. But you've also got the magnetic field that is, going to hit at pretty much the same time. And the electrical side is actually a lot easier to protect against. You can do stuff like surge protectors and, putting ferrite cores on stuff and that sort of thing. The magnetic field side is a lot more difficult to protect against. And I should say, too, none of this is stuff that you have to worry about hurting you. These things don't really hurt people. They really only hurt electronics. But the magnetic side is also an important one to consider, because that is also going to come through your house directly, not necessarily just down the lines. And so if you've got like hard drives that are magnetic, or you've got tapes or videotapes or, that kind of thing, if you're trying to do tape backup, anything magnetic, you got an issue there too. Anything electronic that has small enough wires to have a current induced in it by a strong magnetic field can also be affected by the magnetic field. So even if you've got something that is able to protect against the electronic side, you also need to consider the magnetic side. So something that I would suggest for that is, if you've got something that some kind of magnetic media that you really want to protect, if you've got a gun safe, throw it in there. It's not going to be perfect protection, but a gun safe has high magnetic permeability generally, because it's going to be made out of steel. And that means that you're effectively making a Faraday cage for the magnetic field around your devices. You're also, if the gun safe is built correctly, it's going to be most of a Faraday cage. So if you want to protect stuff, that is one great way to do it, is to throw it in a gun safe.
Hey, and you just gave us all another reason to buy gun safes and to focus on firearms, which most of us like.
Yep. Even better, you can actually get what's called a media safe. And those are rated. The fire rating for a media safe is actually a lot better than for a gun safe generally.
Where do you find those?
Best place I can point people to is go and talk to a safe shop. They a lot of times you don't even have to buy them new. A lot of times you can buy them used from safe dealers, and you can get them for a considerably lower price than you can buying them new. In a lot of cases, they're about on par with a gun safe as far as cost for the amount of volume that you get, but the fire protection is vastly better. And in a lot of cases too, I would say that the water ingress protection is also vastly better because they're designed to withstand a fire. The distinction between a media safe and a gun safe is more about the internal temperature that they can reach before they are considered to be compromised. So a gun safe, a lot of times the fireproofing is actually done by putting layers of drywall inside the walls of the safe. That's how they do their fireproofing. Because drywall actually has some fireproofing aspects to it, because as it burns, it releases water, which then evaporates off and it carries some of the heat with it. So they use drywall in that. Well, that's not great fire protection. Number one, it lets the inside of the safe get fairly hot before it's considered compromised. Number two, as that's burning and it's releasing a whole bunch of water, a lot of that moisture actually goes into the safe and can degrade whatever's stored inside. Now, if you get a media safe, those generally tend to use some form of concrete as their fireproofing material. And they're rated, the time before they're considered compromised is rated based on a much lower temperature, because they want to make sure that if there's anything very, very flammable, such as paper, which is what they're designed to store, or magnetic tape, or hard drives, or flash drives, or anything like that, anything that's considered a storage media for data, those tend to degrade at much lower temperatures. So a media safe is designed to not allow the internal temperature to get more than, I think it's like, I don't know, 120 degrees Fahrenheit or something like that.
Have you ever looked at how much concrete it would take to actually protect against a fire?
Yeah. Yep.
What's the thickness here? Because I'm sitting here, of course, me who likes to build everything from scratch. You know, what could you pack in there to create your own little cement igloo thing to protect your stuff? Is it possible?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. It's just that generally, for the amount of work that you're going to have to put into welding both the internal and external compartments of a safe, so that
but we all know that some of us are crazy enough just to do that, right?
Sure. Well, what I would say,
how many inches of concrete would you need?
Depends on how much time you want. You can go anywhere from like 2 inches, which will give you some time, to 8 inches. That'll give you a whole heck of a lot of time. Let me see if I can find the relevant standard.
I need a chart here, Ralph. I need a chart. This is interesting to me.
Oh, there is one. Hang on just a minute. I'll see if I can find it.
No question in my mind that there isn't a chart out there that all of us little nerds out there are going, oh man, this is cool. I can make my own, right? May not be perfect, but if you don't have to spend like $3,000 on a media safe, it might be a doable thing,
Oh, you can get them. You can get them used. You can get them used for way less than that.
Okay. Well, I had to throw that out there because this is where my little mind goes.
Now you look at decent gun safes, and decent gun safes, they can certainly run you a lot, but media safes, you can get a better safe than a gun safe used for not very much, really. Boy, I'm having a hard time finding that.
Okay, yeah,
chart.
You can't throw carrots out there like that without without producing something.
Yeah, I don't remember what the standards called for that either. That would make it easier to look up.
Yeah, that would be fun. That'd be fun. Well, maybe it's just time to put the welding helmet on.
Yeah.
How hard can this be?
See, here's a good explanation if you scroll down a little bit of the UL fire ratings. But
okay, hang on, I'm going to try to bring this up, guys. All right, hold on.
That's not for media safes. That's more for gun safes.
All right.
Oh, hang
on here a minute. Of course, I got to get complicated. How many screens should a person ever have on their computer? Not as many as I have up right now.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
here
So
we go.
the UL rating for a safe is needs to be basically it's considered failed when it gets to 350 Fahrenheit internal temperature for paper, or 125 Fahrenheit for all types of media. So when you're looking for a media safe, you're looking at something that doesn't let the internal temperature exceed 125 Fahrenheit, basically, for a certain amount of time.
Okay, here you go. This is cool. Very cool. All right, so
yeah,
with
it's hard to find information about them because
you know what, it's hard to find information on everything, because you know what, they try to hide it as a way to keep people out of their little protected industries.
Well, it's such a niche product, you know.
Yeah, but shouldn't it be out there so that like all of us can build whatever we want without the regulation and or the government usurpation, you know, breathing down our necks?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. This all should be published. It should be easy to find. People should understand how different materials interact together, where to find them, how to find them, what you need to do to make X, Y, and Z that you're interested in, and making it in your backyard or whatever. I mean, this is nuts.
Yeah. Hang on just a second. I'm going to mute myself here a minute. I'm going to see if I can find some info. I'll be right back.
Okay, this is where he goes. You ever see Flint Lockwood on his hands? That's Ralph, the IT guy, right there. I say that with a great deal of admiration, because if you want to find anything out, find somebody that's really good at looking things up, resources up online. Like most anons are like that, can do a great job of looking things up. So let's see. Charlotte says Michigan has HB on the floor to give kids 5 mental health days. Do you think this is going far? We have to stop these idiots in Lansing. Global leader clowns us. This is crazy. These people are nuts. Climate change, solar flares, LOL, says Michigan Homesteader. Yep, everybody's laughing. So it is interesting. The sun is healing. Tom always learning, gives a thumb up to Lab. So yeah, I'm like tempted to jump right in here to the pond on this one and see. Oh, we have another.
Okay, so I just found I had to look this up to see what
All right, let's see what we can do here, Rolf.
Yeah, so this is one of them that I've found that seems to work really well is the Schwab FireGuard series.
All right, so that right there has got me a little nervous, just because it's got the name Schwab on anything. You know, my mind goes right directly to Klaus Schwab. You will own nothing and be happy.
Yeah.
So,
but this is their price is almost I'm gonna say pretty close to double what I've seen these things go for before. So about maybe $1,000, $1,200, somewhere in that range. Sometimes if you keep your eye out for one of these things used. And that one is specifically designed as a media safe. And they are incredibly heavy. These are things that you're not going to want to try and move one of these things yourself. This is
1,250 pounds.
Yeah. And that's in a very small space. You don't want these on a second floor. Yeah, here's the product page from them. There we go. There's the UL standard. Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Okay, hold on. Let me take a break here and see if I can get that one up.
Well, I didn't send it to you yet. Just a minute.
Okay. Private chats are wonderful. You make all sorts of mistakes on there, and
yeah, so it's a UL class 125. That is the test for fire resistance of record protection equipment. So that's what I was looking for, is what is that standard for that?
Where is it?
I'm trying to find the actual standard, but here is a description of it.
Turtlecase.com. Okay.
So it's okay. So the actual standard is UL 72, and you're looking for Class 125 protection of UL 72. The reason why is because Class 125 is for the protection of flexible computer disks, which is going to be one of the lowest temperature ratings possible. So basically, if you can find something that is UL 72 Class 125 rated for however many hours you think you need, that's kind of what you're going to look for.
All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. Here's one that looks real nice that looks like Amazon used to have. And they don't have it anymore.
Okay. Well, everybody's got a good idea on how to do this now. Michigan Homesteader says, I have several devices in my Faraday bag. Oh, that's good.
Okay, that's good.
That's good.
The other thing, too, is you can actually check Faraday cages. A lot of those Faraday bags actually don't work. It's great if they do work. Oh yeah, there's a Class 125, and that's going to be fireproof media storage for multi-format data protection. The standalone UL Class 125 3-hour rated media storage safe protects against fire for at least 3 hours, damage from sprinklers, water, humidity, plus a burglary rating. And so something like that is going to be just about as good as you're going to be able to get as a home consumer for EMP protection of media and fireproofing and waterproofing. A lot of the little document safes, really not that great.
That one's discontinued though, but they've got other options here.
Well, but don't limit yourself to just current models either if you're looking at the used market, because you may be able to find something like this. This looks like a wonderful safe. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the ones that have the electronic locks on them, but you can have those redone to a mechanical lock. But anyway, EMP stuff. If you look online, there are actually people that test the those Faraday bags, and not all of them actually do anything. Some of them that are sold as Faraday bags really don't work. Some of them work phenomenally well. So it depends on the brand, but those can actually help. Generally, they'll only help with the electrical side of things, not with the magnetic side. For magnetic, you're not going to be able to protect against that without something big, heavy, and magnetizable like iron. But at least if you can do the electronic side, that's most of the concern, so that's good. If you can Faraday cage something, great. There are ways to test that too. You can get something like a nano VNA where you can use that to do like an analysis of what radio frequencies are able to get through a Faraday bag or a Faraday cage or anything like that. There's techniques you can find online for testing that yourself. It's something you can do at home. But particularly look for somebody that has experience in ham radio. They'll know, they'll have a much better grasp on testing something like that than somebody that's just using an EMF meter. Most of the EMF meters out there are very specific frequency ranges, and they don't do a full spectrum test. And
so what are you saying here, Ralph? That people that have ham license are a little nerdy?
Yeah, maybe potentially just a little bit. Yeah,
just a little nerdy, right? Hey, hang on just 1 second. I'm going to interrupt you here. Michigan Homesteader says, sorry, but breaking news. Kevin O'Leary is looking into purchasing TikTok, another Elon Musk type maneuver. That's interesting. Well, we'll see. So
Yeah. So the other thing too is anything that you have that's a Faraday cage, be it a Faraday bag or a Faraday, an actual constructed Faraday cage, or even putting something in a scrap microwave that you've cut the cord off of, which is something that I see get recommended quite a bit. That can work somewhat as a Faraday cage.
That's
However,
really interesting.
yeah, well, see, a microwave is designed to keep microwaves in, right? So
Right.
the idea there is that it should also, if you have a scrap one, basically just the casing of it should be a passive protection
I never even
against.
thought of that.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
it's not perfect, and a lot of that comes down to the holes in it. You have holes in the mesh grill in the front. You have a big hole in it where the magnetron injects the microwaves into the main cavity of it. There are some holes in it, and it's enough to be able to keep the microwaves in, but it's not necessarily enough to keep everything inside insulated from higher frequency radio interference from outside ingressing into the microwave, which that can happen in an EMP, but it's certainly a lot better than nothing.
Okay, so I think that's a great place to go check out and look into. Maybe we should look into that some more.
Yeah, especially if you're going to do that, get a broken one. Just cut the cord off of it. You probably pick one up off a curb somewhere that somebody is trying to get rid of. It's not a bad solution, really.
All right. And it's inexpensive, like free maybe, if it's broken. So that's interesting. So, well, Ralph, thank you for coming on today. And that's a lot of information to share. And I appreciate your expertise in being able to bring this forward to help people be prepared a little bit.
Yeah, sorry if I was going a little fast there. There's a lot of information to cover in that field.
There's a lot of information to go out to get out to help people be prepared. And it's good to share those information, but also at the same time realizing that you don't have to worry about things, take things as it comes. And the world is you can do what you can to prepare, but the best preparation you can have is right here. Exactly. Realizing that it's here, it's with God, and it's with your heart. Don't let things throw you. And if something happens, and I personally believe that we never really lose anything, no matter what. When somebody dies, we didn't really lose them. They're gone for a little while that we can see, but I don't believe that we actually lose them, because I believe they go where God is, and that we can trust them into his arms to take care of them. Our information, everything about us is God's got in the book of life there. And so you don't, a lot of times we think of that as a bad thing, but what if it's a really good thing? That those things that are precious to us, that God hangs on to for us to keep them safe. And, we have a very, very jaded look at the world, human beings do in general. But God is bigger than that. He's bigger than our losses. He can take care of everything. So we don't have to worry about anything. We can put our trust in God. And as I've said many times, he'll make the way. He does make ways for us no matter what. And he knows what's important to us. And as he's not sitting up there, wanting to hurt us or making sure that we've got pain. He cares. He's leading us through to learn what we need to learn, bring glory to him, and also that he cares about what's important in our hearts. So I have complete faith that he cares of us as a good father does. I mean, think about it. As dads and moms, we love giving good things to our kids, or things that our kids are happy with, make them happy, or that heals their heart. And we want the best for them. And that's how God is with us. So with looking at all of this stuff out there, we can sit back and go, okay, well, if something doesn't go exactly right, that's okay. God's got it. And he has the ability to restore, redeem anything and everything. And he cares about us. He's interested in giving us something better. Even if there's a tragedy that comes up, you just realize that he's got this. It's going to be okay. And we can go forward making the preparations that we can. And I think it's a good idea. But at the end of the day, our best insurance policy always is God Almighty, because He can restore everything, and loves us, and He'll do it out of love. So that's an amazing gift He gives us on a daily basis, is love, restoration, redemption, and hope always. And so I think that's an important thing. We went through some very hard topics today with Stanley about substance abuse. There's no judgment on people that have made choices like that. All of us have done things that maybe have led to our own destruction at some point in time in life. And so nobody's above anybody else. We're all a bunch of little kids trying to make it in this thing that we call life. And we need to be there to help each other, not judge each other on that. Of course, anything we see that's evil or bad, or things that we cannot just back away from this and not address this and say, well, I'm going to show love to them, and we're just not going to do anything. We're going to let this person go. We're going to let them commit the crimes again. No, we can't do that. And it takes a little discernment to know the difference between people just being people and criminals who have no conscience to hurt this nation and our family and friends that we love. There's a point to defending that all of us are responsible for. It's not a bad thing. We just need to face it without an emotional response, but a very logical response, asking God for discernment and wisdom in all things, and that's possible. So with that said, I hope you all have a great day today, and that you don't feel afraid no matter what it is that we have to face. I think that the discussions, we probably should have a discussion on cancer sometime. We probably should have some of these discussions that maybe we haven't talked about yet. And I'm going to challenge everyone out there. I hear a lot of people, I'm a very committed Christian, and I hear a lot of people going after smaller groups of people that maybe we don't agree with all the time. Well, you know what? We're never going to agree on everything. We have the right to protect ourselves and truly to be a good force on this planet, but realize that there are people out there that are very, very hurt. They are hurting, they're afraid, and they need us to be able to step forward and hold their hands to help them and to get them over their fear of the world. I have a very good friend right now who is gay. And he's struggling terribly. A couple of friends, in fact, that they're struggling in pain terribly. I don't want to go into it here, but one of them had their mother, who was hanging this on her Christian ideology, actually said to him, "I wish I would have aborted you." And this is not okay. This is not okay, whether we agree with what somebody's doing or not. We're here to help each other through, not to judge each other, but to help each other, because we do not know what someone has walked through in their life or has pushed them to the point of failure. And instead of holding it over them, maybe we should just walk in and try to help them first and foremost and say, it's okay, buddy. I'm doing okay. Maybe someday I won't be doing okay, but I'm doing okay right now. And maybe someday you'll have to step in and say, okay, Donna, you're not doing okay, and I need to help you. Well, right now I'm doing great. Every day is a good day for me right now. But you know what? When we're strong, we need to step forward and help each other and not sit there and condemn people. I can't even tell you how many times I have been attacked, and people have those sodomites, those, this, that, and the other thing. Do you know how wrong that is? And the next time I hear somebody say that, I'm going to just tell them to shut the hell up. Because you know what? I'm sorry. The people are people. And we could sit there and condemn other people all day long, and it's wrong. It's time to step forward and be someone who wants to step forward and help, like Stanley did with people or having substance abuse problems. It's time to step in, move y'all's feet, and help people, not shun them, not ostracize them because you disagree with the choices they're making. That's not what we're here for. We need to speak out and say, this is probably hurtful. This is probably not helpful. Maybe there's better ways to address these problems. Maybe instead of condemning and finding blame, maybe we should be in there working. If we don't like something we see, instead of sitting back and going, I don't like that, I don't like you, I don't like you, I don't like you. Maybe it's time to step forward, shut our mouths, and start working and doing things rather than speaking. Maybe we should reach out to someone who's very, very self-righteous family says, we wish we would have aborted you. I cannot even fathom this. I cannot fathom this. Somebody stepping forward who claims to be a Christian to say something that is that absolutely evil, horrible, and disgusting. And that goes to every part of our lives. I am absolutely heartbroken over this. I can't, of the people that we should be standing together to throw these people out to the wolves. I can't understand it. And it's going to break my heart the rest of my life. But I swear to God, as I live and breathe, I promise you, I am never going to treat people the way that I've seen others treat each other. And it's heartbreaking. It's time for people who are Christians and say that they're Christians to step up and do the right thing, because God Almighty's watching you. And I'm going to tell you what, the judgment of God is going to go to that church first before it goes to anyone. And so help me God, if I hear the word sodomite again out of anybody's mouth, I am going to say, you shut the hell up. Start opening your arms up and including people in and stepping up to love them, because clearly we have a big problem here. And this is not one that we can walk away from. My heart, I'm heartbroken. Absolutely heartbroken. And I know a lot of people out there are. You know what? This is where we step forward and we love each other and we restore this nation, not just on a procedural level. We have to do it on a procedural level with the way the government's been run, certainly, but on a personal level. Reach out to the people around you today and let them know you love them and you care. That's our first job. And I guess this is what I want to say, and why I always end this program every day with God bless you and God bless all of those who you love, because I know you're hurting. I know every single person out there is hurting. And if you don't feel like you're loved, you know what? You're loved here today on Brandenburg News Network by Donna Brandenburg. And we're going to step forward. We're going to right this nation. So help me God. And these demons are going to go squealing like a bunch of stuck pigs back to hell from where they come, because this is a spiritual issue. Our battle is not with flesh and blood, but it's with principalities and power. And it's time to step up and work, because we're watching the destruction around us. And you know what? We need to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And with that, let's say a prayer. What say you, Ralph?
Sure.
Okay, there you go. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so very, very much for the wonderful opportunity we have every single day to tell everyone around us that we care, that we love them, that we see what's wrong, that they're not alone, that there is a path to fixing this, and that path is Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, who came here to die, to redeem us, because God Almighty wants a relationship with us, each and every person. Every single person, their soul, their spirit, the things that they care about, the things that are important to them are important to you. And we know that so very much. And we are so thankful for every single thing you've done to us. Let them know that they're cared about, that they're not abandoned, that you're a good father, that you care about every single thing, and that you can redeem, restore every single thing that they thought that they've lost, even themselves. That you are sitting there waiting for them, that home is just a call away, and they're home in your arms, loved unconditionally by the Creator, by you, our Creator, our Father, our Savior, our Provider, our banner, our everything, our best friend. Thank you so very much for everything you've done today. Clearly communicate that we need to listen. We need to be there listening to the hurts in other people's hearts, and that we need to be able to step up to work, not just sit back and complain and blame and play the blame game, just like Satan's done for so many years, but that we stand in the gap for those around us, your children, your beloved children, your creation that you've created here. And we're thankful for this opportunity that you've given us to every day get it right. And you set us back up on our feet again and say, I believe in you. We're going to do this, but we're going to do this together. And when you're too weak, you say to us, I'll carry you now. And I'm thankful for every single thing you've done for us. And I just thank you so much. You've been a great friend to us. We want to be a friend to you, and we love you so very much. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. There you go. Donna's little disgust with the world right now.
There you go.
What say you? Let's go out there and make this a great day, because guess what? It's up to us, and we're going to do this. So with that said, God bless you. God bless all those whom you love, and everything that is important to you. May God's favor rest upon you, and God bless America. Make it a great day. It starts here, here, and here. How much can you love today and tomorrow and the next day? Because that's what we do. We'll see you tomorrow with John Tater and Courtney Turner. Have a wonderful day.